Okay, to stay on time, I'll just start up now. Hopefully, I have a clock right in front of me, so I have promised to keep these sessions, the next three, to 20 minutes in length. And the purpose, I guess, one of using Link is I wanted to test out how, I guess, what your experience is like once we complete this series, and does this type of series translate well to be done virtually versus me coming to your school or you guys coming here and being in person? So, and also it allows us to utilize the Link tool, which I think, with the expansion of the new district, or what that encompasses now, the former 3 districts, PD may be offered more and more this way. So you should definitely, by the end of our sessions together, I think just your skills with Link, I'm hoping, if you aren't already familiar with it already, by the end of it, you should see that there's really no big mystery here, but it's a very powerful tool. So you'll have to excuse me from not sharing video. I'm going to be sharing the screen with you, which hopefully, if you just want to let me know if you don't see a screen right now that says PD on demand and with my contact information, just if you want to, feel free to turn your mics on and just say hello, and we can kind of troubleshoot that. If you want to text, if you prefer to do it that way, I have 3 screens going here, so I'm monitoring all of them. And I guess before we jump into the presentation, the first thing I want to mention again, and I kind of like to do this at the start of all my meetings with teachers, is kind of introduce myself. I see from a fair amount of the people who are joining us so far, I know you already, and we've had some dealings. But since I'm recording this presentation for those who couldn't make it today, I want to mention that, again, I'm Mark Bates. I'm one of, in the St. John Education Center, I'm one of 3 mentors. There's Tim Lukey, who mainly deals with high school, and Phil Sweezy, our middle school lead, and myself, who mainly deals with elementary. And that's kind of, with this presentation that we're going to start today, I'm mainly focusing it, and it's based on my experiences within the elementary system. We might do ones in the future targeted at the other levels, but again, I teach elementary, and I've had an elementary teacher website, so I feel fairly knowledgeable talking about that, and it's information that's going to be directed to you. Well, we've been called technology mentors in the past, and we had a name of MB321C mentors, and that went when the new government came in. And I heard that a new name for us is being bantered around, that we're education support teachers specializing in technology. So if you hear either tech mentor or education support teacher technology, same thing. One thing I'll make sure everyone understands, and if you could spread the word, we're not IT technicians, not that there's anything wrong with that. We do work with them quite often, but as technology mentors, as support teachers, we are just that. We're teachers that have been seconded from our classrooms to the St. John Education Center in our case. The other education centers, the one in Hampton, they have 3 mentors, and the one, St. Stephen, has 1. So your main contacts are, again, myself. If I can't assist you, then I can easily refer you to Phil or to Tim. Okay, so that's kind of overall who I am, what I do. A lot of people think that they're bothering us by calling and asking questions, whether it be for advice or to come help out in the classroom. That's our job. So please, if you or someone you know is having difficulties or just needs assistance getting over a hurdle to start to incorporate technologies into teaching, please have them contact us. Again, we can meet during the school day, but I know that especially in elementary, you might have a prep, and if you do, it's just to use the washroom or eat. So we can meet after schools. Doing Link after school is very helpful. Cuts down on travel times for either of us. But I can come to your school in person if you prefer. And I can meet with just you, or I can meet with a group of people. And again, it's on any topic. Sometimes we don't even have to meet. You can email me or link me. And maybe it's just that you've heard about a website, but you want to know more about it. So I'll go off and do the research, and I'll contact you, and then we'll talk about it. So again, basically, you have any idea that you can connect to technology, please contact me. Okay. If I'm going to stay on time, I have to start going. What I've done for today is I've created a Prezi. And a Prezi is, it's from Prezi.com, free service. Think of it as kind of like PowerPoint on steroids. It's all done online. You can upload images, grab images from the web, type in text. And as you'll see from this presentation, I've kind of thrown some of the things that you can do with this tool into it. But it creates kind of just a little more visually dynamic presentation. I try to keep mine kind of short on words, which I know after hearing me talk now for 10 minutes, that's hard to imagine. But so what I'm going to do is I'll just walk through the first part in the series. So today what we're mainly looking at is kind of around the question, why do I need a classroom website? And I know in some cases I'm preaching to the choir, because if you're attending the session, either you already have a site or you're interested in having one. So you feel that need there, and some people, they might feel a pressure. Everyone else is starting to do it, and I need to. So I'm hoping that I can explain to you and give you some rationale for having a website that's kind of based in my readings and some research. Also, this is a 4-part series, so the second part, the next question, will deal with what would I put on my website. So now that I know that I want one, and I know what the basic philosophy is, what is the content? So we'll deal with that in one session, and a session after that, we'll be looking at how do I create one, and that's probably going to be a 2-part session where we'll look at using there's so many services out there, but Weebly is one that's gaining in popularity, and it's my hope that you might know someone who uses it in your school. So once you get started, you'll have some support there. And at the end of the series, you always have my support to come help. And I'm hoping that by the end of the series, if you don't have a site, you will have one. And again, you know that you have my support to continue it, because it is going to be a process. It's not something that it's a skill-based learning process. So it takes time to develop those skills. And again, all these sessions will be done through Link, but if you miss a session, it's being recorded. At the end of this session, I'm going to provide you with some links to my website and to the blog postings. So all the things I'm talking about today are going to be in this Prezi, which you'll have access to at the end. You'll have the video, and you'll have a blog with hyperlinks to documents. So I'm hoping that will be comprehensive. And if you know anyone who wants to join in, they don't have to follow, and you don't have to follow every session. You can jump in and out of sessions as you like. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm just going to press play here. Oh, go full screen. Okay, so again, if you're having problems viewing this, please let me know. Just if you don't want to chime in via voice, just text me. So why a classroom website? And again, this is part 1. So basically, I've titled, the subtitle for this little talk is The New Adventures of the Old Newsletter. And when you think about it, traditionally, class newsletters, well, for in the recent past, they have become more and more a digital product, and they would be printed and distributed by the teacher to students who would take it home, hopefully, not lost between the door and the bus and then from the bus to the house, to their parents and guardians. So depending on the teacher, the publication could look quite different. And sometimes they were varying lengths, the sections, and the publication time. Some were done weekly, monthly, quarterly. Some people would just put one out annually or biannually. And the information, again, could vary. So when we, again, I think of a teacher website is now a replacement for that delivery format. So just press play here, sorry. So when we think about what used to be in a newsletter and what is now on a website, they're very similar, and it's the same information that we want to give parents. Often there's a calendar of events, a news section, student work would be shown in photos. But the main difference is how the information is delivered, the audience and the interactivity that's involved. Not only is a class website on the web, so it's accessible 24/7, but it can be socially shared. And in the old newsletter, the print one, yeah, that's true. And anything sent from the school, it's on paper, so it can be shared. But the way in which it can be shared and ease of the method of sharing is so much more with something that's digital and online. So the messages reach beyond the student and parent, but now to grandparents, community members, friends, our peers, media. So the next thing we deal with is kind of like the naysaying comments. And I've heard many of these, just not as a teacher, but as a mentor. And there's only a certain level, I guess, of countering these arguments, because any of these arguments, depending on how strongly a person believes in them, act as a barrier. So one of the statements often heard is, to start a website, it takes time, effort, and motivation. You can't really argue with that. That is definitely true. Making any change or any effort in education requires those things. But I do like to think that we can minimize that, those effects. And these aspects are lessened if you plan well and you manage your time and you make it part of your routine. Again, just like how you incorporate any new system into your pedagogy. Another one that we sometimes hear is it's not required. It's not a part of teaching. I guess my counter to that is that many things educators do are not required, whether it be coaching, tutoring, fundraising, chaperoning, class celebrations. But it's difficult to think of what our schools and what our classrooms would be like without those extras. It's not very educational. That's another one I hear. And I think this is difficult to address because, as in life, there's good and bad. There are good class websites and there are bad class websites. And those that are good have a purpose in design and content which can address many educational needs and requirements. And I think when we look at the second part in this series, you have to put thought into what it is that you're trying to communicate and what is your website's purpose. And if you design it to be educationally valid, then it will be. So we'll take a look at that later on. And nobody will visit, so why bother? I guess, I hear that one even with school websites. And I kind of liken it back to the classroom. I think that even if it helps just a few people with information and maybe a reference place to go to, then it's worth it. And you'd be surprised when you're probably going to be able to, through your website, track who comes to it. And you'll be surprised by the numbers. And I often look at mine, and I'm quite surprised. It's just not going to be people from around, from your classroom, but you're going to see that you're going to have, you're now on a worldwide stage, and people are going to search out material. Again, it's key to what are you putting on the site. And when we look into some of the other features about how you update and developing that routine, it makes it more valid. So now we go into some of the positives behind having a classroom website, which are in its own, ways to counter the other arguments. By teaching and modeling, basically by having a site, these are things that you are going to be doing. You're teaching and modeling. Now, you think about that, that's the same as being in the classroom. But what you're teaching and modeling here is digital literacy. And to students and parents, while learning yourself, if this is your first foray into an online presence. You're being efficient by sharing links to projects and resources already online, which makes it easy to have student access. You're assisting students and parents by providing links to curricular support materials. You're being relevant to the students as they use the internet much of their lives outside schools. And by having a presence, you validate the school, the classroom, your own presence in that sphere. You're connected with an online presence and are perceived as being more readily accessible. You're creating a portfolio for yourself as well as showing professional growth. Now that could be to potential employers, that could be for if you're thinking of changing schools, changing grades, going into a leadership position. Your blog or your website becomes a tool for you to be able to show activities that have gone on in your classroom it could be over the course of years. And you're contributing globally to the profession. You're taking control of your digital footprint and your brand. And that's something that we're going to talk about more in the second session. And also the blog post from today's session will have some links to, if you're not familiar with what a digital footprint is or the idea of personal branding, you'll be able to watch a Prezi done by Phil Sweezy and Tim Lukey, the other two mentors. And the last one I had is you're adding a level of responsibility to parents and students. By having a calendar that shows upcoming events, shows upcoming deadlines for assignments, important, classroom happenings, and contain rubrics or project outlines, you can't have that come back anymore where, well, we didn't know, well, so-and-so didn't write it in their agenda. It's online. If the parents have signed off that they know your website exists and what the purpose of it is. And again, I've heard that a lot where parents will value the site as being kind of a secondary view into the goings-on within the classroom. And in the end, when we think about classroom websites, it's about, like for me personally, classroom websites are about communication and professionalism. And I'm the one who chooses how I'm perceived and what my message is. And I do so in a way that shows that I'm open and transparent. And again, I keep thinking back, when we think about a digital footprint, like our presence on the web, having an absence of a footprint allows other people to create a version of your presence online. And I think that's something that teachers need to take more of a look at. So we're just about wrapping up here. The first session is just quite brief, but basically next week, like I mentioned before, what would I put on my classroom website is the key driving question. And this is based in a piece of research that I recently read by Miller, and his was titled here, as you can see on the screen, Evaluating the Importance of Common Components in School-Based Websites. Frequency of appearance and stakeholders' judged value. It's interesting because, well, it says school-based, but class-based, it's pretty easy to make the jump. I think it'd be valid to do that. And it takes a look at how teachers, students, and parents perceive school websites. What do they think is important and what do they think is not? And it's interesting to see some of the findings, and we'll talk about that a little bit next week. But basically what I've done is I've taken some research, I've taken out and combined with my own personal experience in looking around the web. And I kind of have some key areas, target areas, kind of like a checklist if you think, of what to set up on your site. Or if you already have one, just kind of compare the two. I'm not saying these things have to be there, but it just seems that when we're looking at, think about audience and value and content, they're good things to have. The next slide here is talking about policy. And these things are noted on the blog, so again, there's no need to try to copy these sort of things down. But the government of New Brunswick, as you know, has many, many policies and for teachers, but there's definitely ones about having a presence on the internet. And basically what I've done is I've posted policy 311, policy 802, and there's another lesser policy, 7108. If you have time to take a look through them, I think it's kind of important to kind of know where you stand, what things can be put online, what things can't. Even when they can, what sort of determinants are there? Also, the appendices are, if you're putting any student work up online, any images, video, students should have signed off on the appendix of policy 311. And I would suggest you putting that in their CR. So that's a printable link that you can click to. Also, in the upcoming sessions, I've come up with some checklist rubrics for you to assess your own website and other websites that you see. I've also created a form letter that can be sent home so that you can poll parents to see what sort of technology access they have at home. Can they access the internet? If so, with what frequency? That's going to help us later on when we're developing the site to know what sort of content, how often you should be updating and stuff like that. So that will be coming up next week. And also on the website, on my blog post, all the works that I've kind of read through. Now, some are more like scholarly journal sort of stuff, and some are just websites. They're listed as well. So if you want to kind of get more information than I've gone through in the past 20 minutes or so, I guess closer to half hour, feel free to do that. And I'll try to do that each session. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring over two resources I want to talk about before I let you go. So in 2 minutes or so. Again, if you go to, and I'll send this out later, markbates.ca, there's actually two websites I'm going to talk about. One's mine, which was initially my own teaching blog. And if I go click home here, and you can kind of see this is a hybrid now where it's kind of like a mentor blog, but it still has some elements of what I had as a teacher blog. You can kind of navigate through some of the sections and see what sort of things I shared when I had my grade 5 classroom and how I addressed my audience, which was students and parents, now teachers. Links I share and things like that. Disclaimer, contact form, my social presence on the web, whether it be Twitter or LinkedIn. And the thing I want to draw your attention to today is the two links here. This first one is a blog post. You can either click the title or click where it says read more. But basically, it's kind of just a reiteration of the email that you originally got. It's just slow loading here. So this talks about the series again. Hopefully, I don't know if any of you were able to go to the Microsoft links. If you want to send me some actually email back, if you have any comments about today's session, things that maybe you'd like to see done differently, please feel free to email it to me. And just let me know if any of these links that I've added, if you found them helpful or not. If you go to the next, and this also had the meeting link today, so if you had lost the email, for the future meetings, use the same join session from the email or if it's in your calendar. And here's today's session. And it's up to date, except I haven't added the Prezi yet, which I'll do as soon as we're done here. So basically, everything I've said is listed here. The links out to the digital footprint presentation are right here. Here's all the policy information and the works that I used to come up with the presentation. So that's markbates.ca. There's lots of, again, PD that I've done and collected over time. Also, if you go to, the next one is pdondemand.mbed.mb.ca. That is in the signature of my email. And when that loads up, that's the, right now we're kind of just in flux as to how we're going to amalgamate the PD resource for the 3 learning centers, education centers. This PD on Demand was what is now the St. John Education Center kind of portal for technological PD. And again, this might be incorporated with the other sites. We're still working on that with the new larger team that we have. But what you can do here is, if you're looking for a resource, like today we talked about class websites. So if you start typing in class websites or class, you see that there's already a category called class websites, and there's 2 posts. And here's the one that I put for today. What is a class website? And it's exactly the same thing that appears on my site. I just wanted to be able to get both groups of people. So take some time to explore the resource section. Lots of things, just not about websites, but Google, Smart, Microsoft, digital citizenship, social media, lots of things. If you have suggestions of things that you want to see on there, again, email one of your mentors and we'll try to come up with something. A lot of them are video-based tutorials. So that is all I'm going to say because I'm only 3 minutes over. Yay! Okay, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, email any comments, suggestions to me, and I guess I'll see everyone next week. Please, if there's anyone out there you think would benefit, have them join us, okay? Have a great afternoon and lovely evening. See you later, guys.